Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Aldas, and in today's video we're going to be having a transfer talk. Of course, now the summer break is a time for the silly season to get 100% into its stride, and we are going to be talking about all of the big rumours around the paddock, all of the big moves that we are expecting to happen and we know will happen over the summer. And I thought this would be a good time, just before, of course, the summer break really has started, because we know that a lot of deals are going to get announced over the next couple of weeks, so it will be good to see at the end or in 3 or 4 weeks time which of these rumours are actually true and which of these are just complete nonsense. I'm going to be talking about sort of the really big rumours that we know and the transfers that we think might happen, and give my opinion on whether I think they will happen and whether I think they should happen. In my opinion, what is the best for that team? Now guys, as always, if you do enjoy the content on this channel and want to see more, don't forget to drop a like, smash that subscribe button, and check out my social medias. Instagram and Twitter, as always, will be above. But no messing around, let's jump in to the biggest story in terms of transfers in Formula 1, and it is the Mercedes, Ocon and Bottas triangle. Now, Toto Wolff, of course, did say on record that it is between Esteban Ocon and Valtteri Bottas. And not only that, he also said that the decision will be made over the summer break. So by the time we get to Belgium and Spa, we will know who will be partnering Lewis Hamilton in 2020, and perhaps even beyond that, of course. So there's a lot riding on this, and I think it's fair to say that the Mercedes seat is probably the hottest seat in Formula 1. I think there's no denying that. Nevertheless, what do I think is going to happen with that whole situation? Who is going to get this seat and who is going to get the boot? Well, to be honest, I actually think it's less to do with Esteban Ocon and Valtteri Bottas and more to do with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. And a lot of you might be a little bit confused at this point, but to me, Mercedes need to realize that if they want to keep winning championships in the next 4 or 5 years, who is going to be able to win a championship and multiple world titles? Because to me, there's only 3 or 4 drivers at most, who I think will be able to win in the next 3 or 4 years at the moment. And that is Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, and perhaps Sebastian Vettel as well. And the big question Mercedes and Toto Wolff have to ask themselves, and it is a honest question, do you actually rank Esteban Ocon as a talent who will be able to do that in the future? Will he be able to go up against the Max Verstappens and the Lewis Hamiltons and Charles Leclercs when they're fully mature drivers? And to me, honestly, and I think you guys might know the answer to this, I don't think he can. The fact that he couldn't outperform Sergio Perez over 2 seasons in Formula 1, even though he will develop in the Mercedes, I just don't see him being able to beat Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen. I mean, even though Lewis will eventually have a little bit of a decline, I just don't see it. So to me, if I was Mercedes, I would keep Bottas for the next, 1 or 2 years and wait until Lewis Hamilton begins to have sort of talks with Toto about retiring, and then go for the real talents in Formula 1, the Max Verstappens, the Charles Leclercs, because that Mercedes seat, even in a couple of years, I don't really see Mercedes slowing down anytime soon. So I still think that'll be a very, very attractive choice for both Max Verstappen or Charles Leclerc. And don't forget, if Esteban Ocon is in that seat, Max Verstappen is not going to be there, and as far as Charles Leclerc, well, possibly. So that's the honest question that Toto Wolff needs to ask him. If you put Esteban Ocon in that seat, you are saying to yourself, he is 100% a future world champion, because then you're basically kind of locking your seats down for the next 5 years. Lewis Hamilton will retire eventually, but he's at the top of his game now and showing no signs of slowing down. So I think this move will happen. How it will pan out, we'll have to wait and see. I don't really see Esteban Ocon as a future world champion. He's a great driver and a great guy. I do not hate Esteban Ocon, despite what a lot of people might say, but to me, he is not a future world champion, and I think they should stick with their lineup for the next 1 or 2 years. Bottas is a great driver, and I think people just seem to be blinded by the fact that he is in 2nd place in the championship. I think it's ridiculous that people are saying that on the back of 2 bad races, he's like Pierre Gasly level, doesn't deserve to be in Mercedes. That is ridiculous. The guy has had pole positions and race wins in 2019. He has really turned it around. And again, he is 2nd in the championship. He is nowhere near struggling. Yes, he's had 2 bad races, but I think he should continue. But, again, I think this move is very possible, and I will not be at all surprised to see Esteban Ocon in that seat for 2020. Now guys, if Esteban Ocon does not get that seat in Mercedes, let's just say, I honestly do not see him sticking around and being their reserve driver for another year and waiting for another transfer window, because he's also got George Russell now as competition, who's really impressing now. So yeah, I don't see Esteban Ocon sticking around if he does not get the seat for 2020, and if he does not, where will he go? Now, I think Renault could honestly be a very good option. Now, Hulkenberg has still actually not got a contract for 2020, and there's been a lot of doubts, still unbeatable, perhaps doesn't have as much confidence in him as he once used to, so that'll be very interesting. Could you see Esteban Ocon in the Renault? I mean, I could actually see that as a pretty realistic move. He was already linked with the team last year, I remember Carlos Sainz leaving before, of course, they got Daniel Ricciardo, so that could be quite a good fit, I think. A French driver and a French team and Daniel Ricciardo as his teammate, that could look like quite a competitive lineup if they decide not to renew Hulkenberg's contract. But I think at the end of the day, that Mercedes seat is like the massive domino that will just, as soon as that falls, all of the pieces will just fall into place, I think, for the rest of the field. And in terms of Nico Hulkenberg, we're sort of moving driver to driver here and team to team, but in terms of Nico Hulkenberg, if he does leave Renault, let's just say, where could he go? I mean, the one team that has perhaps got even a bigger driver issue is Haas. Haas. What do I even say about that driver pairing of Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen? Well, I can honestly say that I will be shocked if they retain those two drivers for 2020. They just do not work well together. They have just had too many incidents on track against each other. I mean, just compare them to McLaren, Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz work so well together and even help each other to give McLaren the most amount of points. Haas, on the other hand, these two drivers are constantly battling each other and not helping the team. So, yeah, I do not see these two sticking around at Haas. At the moment, it does look like Romain Grosjean is going to be the one that is going to be let go, but quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if both of them were let go. Having said that, though, if Grosjean is let go, let's just say he's the guy who gets the drop, who do I think could replace him? Well, there is a whole load of drivers and a whole load of options for the Haas team. First of all, let me just throw this out there. Valtteri Bottas, I mean, let's just say if he is dropped by Mercedes, I think Haas could be a very good place for Bottas, and also a good driver for Haas as well, because Bottas is a very solid driver, of course a race winner as we know, and has done very good things in the midfield in the past. I mean, let's not forget he came from Williams and got quite a few podiums, so Bottas can cutter and he is a very good racing driver. I think that could be a very interesting Scandinavian pairing, of course, with Kevin Magnussen and Valtteri Bottas. Another name I suppose you could say is Daniil Kvyat. Now, Daniil Kvyat is one of those people that's obviously linked with a bit of a bigger team, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on, but nevertheless, another very quick racing driver. Kvyat has almost had a bit of a rejuvenation in his career in 2019, and we know how quick Kvyat can be. He can pull off those surprise results like we saw in Germany, but he's also a very consistent driver as well, and he also does not mind a bit of on-track action and battling. Of course, as we also saw with his teammate in Hungary, one of the best battles of that race, no doubt. The only problem with that lineup is when you have Kevin Magnussen, who never gives up, and when you have Daniil Kvyat, who never gives up, quite frankly, I think you're going to reach a point where it's exactly the same as the Grosjean-Magnussen combination. So that's the only thing that I don't think would work. Both of these drivers are really aggressive, and yeah, that is not going to mix at Haas. So if Kvyat does come to the team, I don't see K-Mag there, if I'm being honest. Another guy who I'm going to mention is Sergei Sorokin, a guy who, in my opinion, did such a good job at Williams and was so underrated by the Formula 1 community. And let's just not forget, by the way, Sergei Sorokin is 23 years old. He is a young driver, which is nuts. And I do really think he does deserve another chance in Formula 1 because he did a very solid job, out-qualified Lance Stroll, and did miss a few occasions to score more points, like in Baku or in Monaco as well last year, and some of those weren't exactly his fault. So I honestly would like to see him back in Formula 1, and I think the Haas team should definitely consider Sergei Sorokin. He is, again, a very good driver and someone who, in my opinion, deserves another chance in Formula 1. However, if they go the complete opposite way and just get a brand new driver lineup altogether, apart from those guys, there's also one driver lineup I've really been thinking, because as I said, Hulkenberg still does not have a contract for 2020, but neither does Sergio Perez. And what I thought is that, what about Sergio Perez and Nico Hulkenberg forming a new driver lineup at Haas, like they did at Force India a few years back? And if you remember, they used to get really good results. Both of them are super midfield drivers, so consistent as well. I think that could be a seriously good combination for Haas. Can you imagine Sergio Perez and Nico Hulkenberg, the ultimate midfield team, sort of the ultimate band coming back together? I think that could be a solid option for them. But again, Haas really do need to think a lot about their driver situation, because again, I do not see that driver lineup continuing for 2020. Now guys, let's move on to Red Bull, and Pierre Gasly. Pierre, what is going on? Now, this is really hard because Pierre Gasly is one of the nicest guys in Formula 1 and he does have genuine speed. We've seen it in his Toro Rosso days, but it's just not working out in 2019. He was once again lapped at the Hungarian Grand Prix, just like he was in Austria, and it's just not working. He doesn't seem to be able to get the most out of that car, and if you watch the qualifying comparison between Verstappen and Pierre Gasly, it's just ridiculous how Pierre is just not at one with the car. He's not extracting the most out of it, and even now, halfway into the season, it has not got any better. He was still struggling to get past Carlos Sainz and a midfield team, which is just not good enough around a track that Red Bull were very strong at. So honestly, unless he has a gigantic turnaround to his season, and they've already said that, well, Marco has said that they're not going to replace him in 2019, they're going to keep him towards the end of the season, but do not trust a word that man says. But let's just say they do keep him towards the end of the season. Who could replace him if he does get replaced? Obviously, the big names are Kvyat and Albon. Now, first of all, I don't think Albon should replace him, full stop. I mean, if Gasly was not ready after one season, then Alexander Albon definitely won't. And Alexander Albon has showed a few tendencies to crash. He just needs to mature just a little bit, and I think that would be absolutely perfect for him to have another year at Toro Rosso, and then for the big rule changes, then be ready for a seat at Red Bull. I think that's the perfect sort of path for Alexander Albon, so I don't think he's ready for that Red Bull at all. So I think it's ridiculous to replace a driver who's had 1 year of experience and then goes to the top team with another driver who's had 1 year of experience and then goes to the top team. It just doesn't make sense. Kvyat, of course, is the better option, perhaps. He has been talked about, and I really would like to see him so much in that Red Bull. Could you imagine? I mean, just remember, Max Verstappen was the guy that replaced Kvyat and kind of kicked him out of the team. So to see that as a driver pairing, I think would be amazing. And we know Kvyat is proven. He can handle the pressure up front. I think a lot of people forget that Daniil Kvyat beat Daniel Ricciardo head-to-head in 2015. He finished with more points. It was very close, but he did a very good job there. And he got Red Bull's first podium in 2016 as well. He can cut it up top, and we've seen that already, and that has been proven. And this new Kvyat is also just a lot more mature. So I really would like to see him back, and I quite honestly, I hope it does happen, because as a story in Formula 1, that would be just incredible. Now, there is one more name that I'm going to give a little bit of a shout out to Red Bull, and it's the guy that we've been talking the most about, and that is Valtteri Bottas. Now, I actually thought about this a few days ago and kind of thought this lineup would actually be very good. I mean, you have Max Verstappen as the guy who, yes, is the potential world champion, gets those race wins, amazing results, and can sometimes, you know, lose his temper a little bit. He does have quite a fiery character, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then alongside him, almost like Hamilton Bottas, you have Verstappen Bottas, you know, the level-headed Finn who's able to win races, able to get podiums, can do a good job. We know that he can do a good job. He's already shown that in 2019. And whether Valtteri Bottas would just be a placeholder for Alexander Albon or another Red Bull talent, what do you guys think of this driver lineup? Because I honestly think it makes so much sense. You know, you have Max Verstappen, who, yes, will be able to challenge for championships very, very soon if the Red Bull Honda improves even further into 2020. And then you have Valtteri Bottas to back him up, might get some race wins, might get some podiums, and will definitely do a good job. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of that driver lineup? To me, it makes so much sense. A really good driver lineup in my opinion. Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas at Red Bull for 2020. Let me know in the comments below. Now guys, just one more team I want to talk about now, and that is Williams. Now, they have already said, of course, George Russell is on a multi-year deal. He will not be going anywhere, so and he's been developing really well throughout 2019, so I'm very looking forward to see where his career is going to go, because he is a guy who I do think could be a future world champion, but that's perhaps for another video. In terms of Robert Kubica though, I think many people think that he is going to be let go at the end of the season, and if he is, who could replace him? Now, the first name, and quite an obvious one, I think would be Nicholas Latifi. Now, he is doing very good in Formula 2 and has of course already had a bit of time in the car in the Canadian Grand Prix, or at the start of the Canadian Grand Prix weekend during practice, so the team know him very well. I think that could be a very solid option for them, another young driver who has a lot of potential. So yeah, I think that could be honestly a very solid driver lineup. But guys, another lineup that I want to throw in there is Esteban Ocon versus George Russell. Now, Mercedes have this dilemma where they have two really good young drivers, Esteban Ocon and George Russell, wanting to go into the Mercedes, and I think, what about keeping Bottas on for 2020, and in that same year have Esteban Ocon and George Russell just basically go against each other in Williams, and then evaluate which one of these guys do you actually want to take on as your young driver in the future? Is Ocon better, or is George Russell better? And from there, then you can decide who is that one young driver you're going to put your money and chips up against as a future world champion. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. A George Russell versus Esteban Ocon face-off for a Mercedes 2021 seat. Comment in the box below. What do you think of that idea? Because I would love to see that. Competition always brings out the best in drivers, and that could get very, very tasty. Anyway, guys, there you go. That is my video summarizing some of the biggest paddock rumors and some of my thoughts as well about the driver market in 2019. Again, 3 or 4 weeks in the future from this video, it could be completely different. We will have an announcement at that Mercedes seat and perhaps a few more as well. Perhaps Haas. They also said that they're going to announce it over the summer break. So yeah, I cannot wait to see which way this is going. Now, guys, don't forget to comment below. What do you think of all of these rumors? What do you want to see happen? And sort of predict your driver lineup for 2020. Nevertheless, guys, if you did enjoy the video and want to see more, don't forget to drop a like, smash that subscribe button, and check out my social medias. Instagram and Twitter will be above. Anyway, guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.